The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports. You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators.
I'm going to take a second here, right? We're going to take a second to acknowledge how incredible this was, right? This is a Florida Gators team that early on in the year was not nationally expected to be a college basketball national championship contender, right? Early on in the year, national media thought of Florida as, like a fun team to talk about, a team that could be a fun March team, but weren't thought of as national championship contenders. They opened the season ranked 21st in the country. But for the third time ever, for the third time in my life, and for the third time of so many of you watching, listening, however you're supporting, first off, thank you. This is incredible. We went live, just pulling the curtain back a little bit. We went live here immediately after the game, and then I took basically 2 hours, not to prepare, not to do anything, but to just soak it in. Because the Florida Gators are national champions again. Like, the Florida Gators are back on top again. And I can't express, one, how awesome this feeling is. And two, I can't express how much I appreciate every single one of you that have come through and supported this show. And even if you haven't supported the show, have supported this Florida Gators program, because they deserve every last bit of it. They're incredible. This is just a remarkable team. 36-4. It can't be expressed how incredible this team is, how incredible that game was, how nerve-wracking that game was. The Florida Gators, at one point, were given a very slim chance to win this game, right? With about how much time is that? With 15 minutes left, right? 16 minutes left in the second half. The Florida Gators had a 10.2% chance of winning this game. 16 minutes left. 10.2% chance. They came back, and you could feel the momentum shift in this game. When Houston got into the bonus, Florida kept hammering into the paint. You could feel that, hey, 42-30 was not a big enough lead for Houston. You could feel it. You could feel just Florida getting back going. Walter Clayton Jr. shot 1 for 7 from 3. Elijah Martin shot 1 for 6 from 3. Every other Florida Gator missed all of their threes except Will Richards shooting 4 for 7 from 3. This is a team that had one of their worst shooting performances from 3 that they've had all season. This is a team that was forced to play a brand of basketball that was not their style of basketball. This is a team that when they went down 42-30, many people counted them out completely. And like we've seen so many times before, like we've seen consistently throughout this regular season and throughout this postseason. This is a Florida Gators team that will not quit, that will not die, that can come back from any deficit with any amount of time left. This is a Florida Gators team that so many people talked about having the toughest path to victory, that had to face just of all the 1 seeds, that had to face all the best teams possible in their matchups, in their seeding. And this is a Florida Gators team that overcame every single obstacle to etch their name in just immortality. This is a Florida Gators team that will go down with the greats. An unforgettable team. Walter Clayton Jr. said, "Hey, I just hope this team is remembered." I promise you, we will not forget this team. The Florida Gators won their 3rd national championship with Walter Clayton Jr. having one of his worst shooting performances that he's had this season. And I'm not saying one of his worst games, because honestly, outside of his 3-point shooting, Walter Clayton Jr. played a very good game. Once again, defensively, he showed up. Okay? This was one of his best pass. Screw that. This was his best passing performance of the season. I know he had more assists in the Ole Miss and Alabama games at the end of the season. I know that he had the same number of assists in other games. Don't care. This was the best passing performance from Walter Clayton Jr. Okay? This was it. He had a block again, which, by the way, he's had 3 blocks in the national championship. In the March Madness tournament, he had 3 blocks. He had what? 7 throughout the rest of the season combined, something like that. This is like this was an elite performance by an elite player. This was the greatest Florida Gators basketball player of all time in Walter Clayton Jr. And look, you could disagree if you'd like. I encourage people that if you disagree with something, to say that. If you have an issue with someone saying something, then say that. But this is the greatest Florida Gators basketball player of all time in Walter Clayton Jr. This is one. I'm not going to say everybody. I'm not going to say this is my favorite Florida Gators basketball team of all time. Just because those older national championship teams and the 2014 team, special places in my heart. This team also a special place in my heart. I can't make a decision between any of them. I'm not saying that I feel one way or another. But this is a Florida Gators basketball team that did what so many people didn't think they could do. This is a Florida Gators basketball team that week in, week out fought their ass off, game in, game out, fought their ass off through horrible officiating throughout this entire tournament. And I'm not saying that that's a Florida-specific thing. I think if you were an official in this tournament, you should be embarrassed to show your face on a court, because holy crap is the officiating bad all tournament on both sides. But this is a Florida Gators team that was forced to play Houston basketball. Messy, fugly basketball. And they said, okay, we're going to do that. And we're going to win. Because we're the best team in the country. I told you guys after the first time they beat Auburn, because don't forget they did it twice. I told you guys after the first time they beat Auburn that I was confident this is the best basketball team in the country. Now, you can say any metric you want. You could say anything about Duke having Cooper Flagg. You could say anything about Auburn having Janai Broome. You could say anything about Houston having Kelvin Sampson, LJ Cryer. You could say anything you want about them. But what you can't say is that any of those teams won national championships. What you can say is that the Florida Gators won a national championship. That the Florida Gators are the best basketball team in the country.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
Sometimes you just run out of time. Sometimes things don't go your way.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars.
Houston falls 65-63 in the national title game. They held a lead for a lot of this one. I think Florida, between ties and Houston leads, I think the thing said Florida had the lead for like a minute or something of the basketball game. Not that the lead was ever crazy. I think Houston's biggest lead got up to 12 at one point early in the second half. And we know from being on the other side of that, that's not decisive. Houston holds Florida to below 70 for their, I think, just the second time this season. Defense was strong. Frankly, I was talking to Pete Bukowski a lot on a lot on Sports Today, and he brought up, like, honestly, if you hold that backcourt between Elijah Martin and Walter Clayton to a total of 5 of 20 shooting, you'd think you have a pretty good chance. I think if you hold Florida, you think you had a pretty good chance, and really you had a chance. I think that's why this hurts so much. I think the other thing that hurts about this so much, though, and I think this is where I want to start, is Houston's beaten down the door, right? Final Four 2021, Elite Eight 2022, injury in 2024, injury in 2023, right here in 2025. Houston's beaten down the door. This thing is coming. It's going to happen. Don't know when, and I don't know what it's going to look like. I just know that the last, 4 or 5 years have had a lot of these faces on it. And as Walter says here, I love these guys. I'm just sick. Been following this program as student alum since 2005. Thought this was our year, really did. I think what makes me sick is, like, this group specifically, these guys have been so close for so long, and it felt like they were so close again. Obviously, there are offensive issues that happened in this game. Obviously, there are things you want to fix, things you want to take back, things you want to change. But ultimately, like, you look at this and you just feel bad for those guys, man. You play that game 10 times, it comes out 10 different ways. Florida won that one. Who knows? You go 5-5 across that 10-game stretch. That's 2 incredible basketball teams. And that's the fun of college basketball. It's not a best of 7 series. It's never a bunch of 3-game series. It's one and done. And Houston snuck out with one earlier in the tournament, and kind of out toughed someone down the stretch there, right? And instead they end up here in this one on the wrong side of that, right? That's the way that goes. Hats off to a bunch of guys in this one and the incredible toughness that they showed. Javier Francis played his stones off, man. Couple huge dunks, great defense in rotation. He's guarding Walter Clayton on the perimeter. He got his 21 minutes, and I thought at one point he had his 5th foul, and being the 5th one was actually called on Miles Uzan. Finished with 8 points, 6 rebounds, an impressive outing from him. Couple blocks. I think he got credit with 2 blocks. Hats off to LJ Cryer. Played 37 minutes of this one, 19 points. No one shot the ball particularly well from 3, but he was 4 of 11 for Houston. Some important defensive plays at Cryer too, rotating and covering big guys, tagging the roller with big guys. Just incredible stuff. JoJo Tugler, great defense. Jawan Roberts is a soldier. And like I said, it sucks. It sucks for a lot of reasons. I feel like this was the coming out party year for Houston in a lot of ways. I feel like you could shut down a lot of things with a lot of things this season. I think ultimately, in however many years or how many months, weeks, whatever, you look back and you will think about like how fantastic this season was and all of that. But the truth here is that as you get here, it just sucks because this is the last chance for this group. Next year's group is going to be totally different, bringing in multiple McDonald's All-Americans, the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Texas, for my money, one of the best players in the city of Houston, and who knows what else is out there coming added to this roster. The roster only gets better, weirdly, as far as like national level of talent in all those regards and stuff like that. But gutting way for this group because this group felt special, right? The way this group felt special when they never quit at Kansas, the way this group felt special and never quit in a weird game with UCF, the way this group never quit against Arizona multiple times, Gonzaga, Purdue, the way they stomped Tennessee out, the way they stood up tall against Baylor in Waco. This group never quits. And that felt like such a calling card for this one. And Florida knew it. Florida knew what they were up against. That they brought it too, right? They're diving on the floor in the 40th minute. That's what it takes. Just an incredible run that, again, I think we'll look back on in weeks, months, years, whatever, and appreciate. I think we'll look back when Kelvin does beat that door down and get his title and appreciate. I think we'll look back in a lot of ways and appreciate at some point that doesn't make tonight easier. And so for all the folks there in the Alamo Dome, for all the folks at home in Houston, around the state of Texas or further, it's okay that this hurts, right? That's part of what makes this fun is that the excitement for all of the wins is going to have the same inverse opinion, like feeling when it doesn't go that way, right? And I don't mean to get soapboxy here for a second, but man, like you're down the wire in that game. And like, down the wire in that game and you're right there. You don't get a shot off at the end. I got comments flying in here. I got Adrian, longtime listener, says, hell of a season. Hate the way it ended. Sad for Sampson. I've got Walter saying Francis was great. That dunk will go down in history. I think when we're at a happier moment, we'll think about that one for sure. Got a Florida fan says, good game to you guys. Good game to Florida. No hate there. They played a hell of a game. Locked on Big 12 chimes with the whole Big 12 is behind Houston tonight, who got to rise to the top of the league. And now all 16 fan bases are behind them moving forward. I'm sure there'll be a conversation at some point in a later episode in the off season as we head into it about like what this means for Houston's spot in the Big 12, because I think that's an interesting conversation. You had a lot of things going on. Love these guys, just sick. I think we had that one up already. Thank you, Kelvin. Another one that's great to see. Would have liked Roberts getting the ball at least once at the last 6 possessions. We'll get into more basketball stuff and get out of the fields for a second. Not that that's any less fieldsy.
There's nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute Major League Baseball showdown or soaking up the excitement of a high-level NBA matchup. Finding great seats at a great price, though, that has long been a challenge until Gametime. All baseball season long, you can snag great deals on good seats the closer it gets to first pitch. Plus, Gametime shows you your view from your seat before you buy. That way, you won't get stuck behind a column and miss half the game. I can't recommend Gametime enough. They show you the all-in price on each ticket. That way, you know exactly what you're paying for and you don't get hit with surprise fees. You'll even have the peace of mind with Gametime, who have the cancellation protection and even job loss insurance, so I can buy with confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
Texas A&M made a great hire, bringing in former Samford coach Bucky McMillan to be the Aggies' new head coach.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies.
The exciting hire of Bucky McMillan, the former Samford coach. Now listen, here's the deal. A lot of folks are going to see this hire. I would say right now that it's been mixed feelings. I've seen a lot of happy people and a lot of upset people. I think it was a bit unexpected. Bucky McMillan was not a name until he was really hired that I foresaw being the next head coach for the Aggies. But of course, that is who the athletic department decided to go with. And I think it's a good hire. And this is one, when they hired him, I feel like a lot of times people go, well, what the heck? This is bull crap. This stinks. And then they kind of come around a little bit. As soon as I did some research, I said, I like this hire. I think it's a good hire. And before we get into Bucky as a coach and what he does, and before we get into all of those intangibles, I want to talk about why I like this hire. I think that, would Chris Beard have been great? Would Jans over at Mississippi State have been a good hire? If you could have gotten Ossenberger over from Iowa State, would have been good hire. Yes, those would have all been great. But right now, you have a coach playing in the national championship game tonight in Todd Golden, who came over from San Francisco. Alabama, Nate Oates comes over from Buffalo. I think what's in right now when it comes to hiring college basketball coaches is some of these young up-and-coming coaches. And Coach Bucky McMillan's I think he's 41 years old, I read. A young guy who I think is going to be a star in this industry. So this year, the Samford Bulldogs record was 22-11 overall, 12-6 in conference play in the Southern Conference. They played in the NIT and lost in the first round to George Mason. Last year, though, and then speaking on KenPom this year, right now in this year's KenPom, I'm on 24. Let me go back to 25. On this year's KenPom, Samford is sitting. They were inside the top 100. Where were they? I was looking at Stanford earlier. That's funny. Okay, Samford was 118. The offense was 76, and the defense was 213. So they were 118 overall in KenPom. And, it's very clear that, look, and last year, they were absolutely incredible. The Samford Bulldogs last year had just a great, great season, picking up, I believe it was 29 total wins. So here is what we got here. So when coach was hired, it says, I couldn't be more excited to wake up to the reality of being named the head basketball coach at Texas A&M. As a guy that grew up around the SEC, I'm motivated by the vision of Texas A&M's leadership to compete at the highest levels of college basketball. As I've done my entire career, I won't rest until we get the Aggies playing at a championship level year in and year out. Trev Alberts says, we're incredibly excited about Bucky coming to Aggie Land to lead our men's basketball program. He's an innovator as a coach and has a smart and analytics-driven approach to the game. Bucky brings a unique combination of qualities to our program, and we're thrilled to begin the next chapter of our basketball history under his leadership. And the other quote that what I liked about, they call it Buckyball, which is his offensive. It's a fast-paced offense. They like to shoot the basketball. They like to get out and find ways to get easy baskets. I watched some film on the offense today, and it was quite impressive. So they averaged 83.3 points per game, which is, let's see, is that inside? It's right outside the top 10, 83.6. So they were 13th overall when it came to points per game. Why does this say 83? Oh, they probably didn't. This doesn't count. Maybe the NIT, whatever. But I mean, just a great offensive team that is going to score a lot of points. So, it's really funny. We've seen Texas A&M basketball be a team so driven by defense during the Buzz Williams era. And now you see a team in a Texas A&M team. Samford shot 29.6 3-pointers per game. So they are a team that wants to shoot the ball a lot. That is what they want to do. Like I said, it's a fast-paced, high-powered offense. And I think that Coach McMillan is going to be able to recruit the type of players that, because once again, his defense has not been great. I mean, once again, this year it wasn't good. I think last year even their offense was inside the top 80, but in KenPom, and their defense was outside the top 200. So, they're a team that defense has been a bit of a struggle. But I'm a believer that Coach McMillan's going to be able to recruit the type of players necessary to have a really good defense. And I think that, sometimes that's part of it. When you get to a new school as a coach coming from, like the Southern Conference, coming from Samford, you are looking for players who fit your system, but can take you to that next level. And I think that he's going to be able to do that. I think he's going to be able to recruit the type of players necessary to take his team to this level where they're going to be good on both sides of the ball. Yeah, I expect them to I'm going to expect them to be a better offensive team than a defensive team. I mean, I think that's pretty safe to say. But also at the same time, I'm expecting them to be pretty good on both sides of the ball. I mean, I think that with better players in the SEC, there's a world where he has a top 20 offense in KenPom. I think it's very realistic. And so, for example, last year, Texas A&M shot the three ball 22.7 times per game, which was 171st in the nation. Now, Coach Bucky Irving comes in with his team shooting the ball 29.6 times per game from deep. They're going to be letting it fly from beyond the arc a lot under Bucky McMillan. Did I say Bucky Irving? I keep thinking about Bucky Irving. He was on my fantasy team. But I like the hire. He's a young, up-and-coming coach, fiery, ready to come in and work his behind off to get this basketball program to an elite level, which it's been on. I mean, once again, this was a team that was a high seed in the NCAA tournament and competed in the best conference ever this year in the SEC. And so, yeah, I think that I really liked this hire. Of course, when the hire was made, I really wanted to sit down and do some research and figure out who is Bucky McMillan. But now that he's the head basketball coach at Texas A&M, I'm bought into it. I think that he's going now. And recruiting is going to be what he has to prove he can do. If he can go get some great players out of the portal that fit his system well offensively, but can also play some defense, and you get a team next year that your offense is like 16 in KenPom and the defense is 39 or 40, like around there, this team can be really, really good. So I think it's a good fit. I think he's a good fit at Texas A&M. I think he's a good basketball coach, and I think that Coach Bucky McMillan is going to take Texas A&M. I think he can get us to the next level. So hopefully Bucky McMillan is the new Todd Golden, is the new Nate Oates. That would be incredibly ideal, and I think he has that in him, the type of style basketball his teams play.